Well, them cold winter nights are coming and you're looking for something to keep you warm. You're looking for something that'll last all day? Well, we got it. An authentic Mexican pozole. Pork so tender, the good flavor you get from that rich red broth of them roasted peppers. Come on, I got it going on. Hey, thank y'all for stopping by the barn for another edition of Cowboy Cooking. And what are we cooking today? Something y'all been asking for a long time. What is it? Pozole. Yeah, made an authentic, traditional way with the old dried chilies and everything. But first you'll be asking yourself, what is pozole? Well, pozole is hominy. Now, what is hominy? You don't know? Whew, we grew up eating hominy. It was on our table a lot. White corn that is soaked in a lye solution to make it swell and puff up. And then it is washed, drained, and canned. And ooh, it goes so well with this soup. It is traditionally that you combine this and pork and some chilies together with a few other spices to get you a good, thick, rich, hearty red broth that goes with this tender pork. So let's get started with this pork butt, or pork shoulder as it is also known. And we're going to take about 5 pounds of pork shoulder. And you see me sort of stand it up there where you could eyeball that bone and just cut down both sides of that to where you can lay it out there. Then you've got a diagram by all the little white streaks you see to where you can cut in between them, separate them muscles, and then you can dice it up into 1-inch cubes. Now, if you don't want to go to this trouble, you can have your butcher cut you up 4 pounds of pork stew meat, but I like to trim mine pretty good. And you see me when you get right down there to the end of that, and that old pork bone is left there just as shiny it is. Tell you what, do not think that we're going to give this to the pups. No. Remember when you're cooking that big old pot of beans, and Shan might even have you a link for our beans that's up there, and I was using ham hock. Hey, throw that big old piece of pork bone in there with that meat. You won't regret it. It's going to bring a lot of flavor. Now, as you see me lay that out there on that cutting board, I like to trim off all that really excessive amount of fat, but you can leave just a little of that on there, because a traditional way to me was always known as you're going to boil this pork in water, which is sort of going to render it. We're going to dip that foam off or that fatty excess. So you're going to cut this into bite-sized chunks, add it to your pot. Then what are we going to do? Add 12 cups of water, just regular old tap water. You see me in there roast a jalapeno and a serrano when I just roasted them over an open flame. You can do this on the grill or you can do it in the house. Just roast them where they get blistered black. Just roll them around there till you get an even coating all the way around. Then I'm going to cut the stem of them, slice them in half, go ahead and take the seeds and the vein out of them. But I'm just going to put them in here because it's going to add us so much more flavor just to leave that char and everything on there as this begins to boil and everything gets tender. So let's get it on the fire and get started. So we got her in there, got our chilies. I like to give it a little stir to make sure everything is like it's supposed to be. We're going to cover it, let it sit there and cook for about an hour on medium-high heat. We want this to come to a good rolling boil. It's going to make some foam as we go along, and you'll see me, we need to dip that foam off and get rid of it. Well, our good pork shoulder there has been on for about an hour. Everything is looking good. Now, I didn't have to dip a lot of that old foamy water off there. I think it all goes back to how well you trimmed your pork to start out with. So it's been on an hour, and we made this good, thick, good looking red sauce that's going to go in that broth, which gives it its great authentic taste and flavor to me. Now, the chilies that we use to do this are the guajillo, the ancho, which is a dried poblano, and chili de arbol. Now, before we started that, you seen me take 2 tomatillos, core out the little top of the stem there, preheat the oven to about 400, slip them on a cookie sheet, let them go about 20 minutes. They need to get good and roasted and soft. When that happens, pull them out there, let them cool a minute. Now let's start with our chilies. Now, the guajillo chilies, you can just take a knife and slit down there because they're long, thin red chili. Peel them open, get them seeds out, throw them in a saucepan. Now, for the dried anchos, pull that stem off of them, crack them any way you got to, but get all the seeds out, throw them in there too. The chili de arbol, hey, just chunk him in there. If you want to shake some of the seeds out of him, you can, but remember, those little chilies are hot. So if you think this might be a little more than your taste buds desire, hey, leave it out of there. Then we're going to take a big white onion. We're going to core it in fourths, cut him up, chunk him in there as well. Add enough water to cover all that, and we're going to let it go to boil until they get tender. It's probably going to take 20 to 25 minutes. Now, while that's boiling, I think we need to talk about these chilies just a little more. Now, when you go to the store and you be looking for these chilies, and this is the 3 that we're using today, when you look at these chilies should be good and red and shiny, especially if it's a guajillo chili. They need to have that shine. Now, when you open them package on any of them, it should sort of smell like dried fruit. Now, if you go to finding some of them that have some white spots in there, or they look like they might just be a little too hard at times, find you another. The white spots mean they might have had an insect in there, might have a little mold or a little mildew. Now, when you can get these chilies like this and use them, you're bringing out so much of that great smoky flavor that brings to add to it. But one thing about the dried ancho chili is it brings just a little hint of sweet too to go with that good smoky flavor that it creates. Now, when this gets good and tender like they are, I pulled it up and I could tell that them peppers were good and soft. Let's just go ahead, take them, put them in a blender. Now, when you get that in a blender, all the peppers, add the garlic cloves, just chunk them right over there in the top. Then we're going to add the oregano and the cumin. We need a little bit of chicken broth to go in there. Now, I recommend using the Knorr, the little bitty, what you call them little squares, Shan? Got a fancy name.
Bouillon?
Bouillon, I think is what they're called. Take 2 of them, put them in there with about 4 cups of water because we're going to use the remaining in a little bit. Mash the button on high. Let's get it to going, mixing up really well. Then we're going to take it out of there, sift it through a little sifter or a screen, then catch it in a pot or a pan, whatever you want to put it in. But when you get all that to going in that strainer, you're going to have to take a spatula and go to raking it around here, there, and yonder to get all that to drain really good, because you're filtering out any tough skin that was left and any seeds that might have been left in there. And it'll make this, good, thick, rich stuff, and it is what it is called for, fine dining. So let's go ahead and add it to the pork here in the pot and make sure you get everybody in there. After we've got our good chili broth there that we put in there, we're going to add half a tablespoon of chili powder. The remaining chicken broth that we had left there, which is about 3.5 cups from what we mixed up, it goes in there as well. 2 bay leaves, and then we're going to give it a little stir. Make sure everything has got to going. Can y'all smell it? Whew, it does smell some of that good. Now, if y'all are new to our channel, you don't want to miss out on none of this. We do a lot of Tex-Mex recipes, a lot of Southwestern flair, a lot of grilling. We bring comfort food to your kitchen, and you didn't even have to ask. We just showed up there. Be sure and give us a like and a share, but also hit that dingy-dong button and subscribe, because we'd hate for you to miss out on none of this stuff we got going on. Okay, we got her on for about an hour here. We're going to turn it down to where it's just going to simmer, because we need to let all them flavors blend well into that pork. Let all that good chili broth that we make just sort of surround all that pieces of pork meat and make it good and tender. Now, that's what we're waiting this other hour for. We want this pork to get good and tender to where we can reach in there with a fork and it just nearly falls apart. That's what we're after. Well, we've been on about another hour, and we need to make sure that that pork is what I call fork tender. So let me get some. And it is that. You can see that it is what you call comes apart real easy. So at that time, ain't but 2 things left to do, folks. Both of them are right here. They're ready to eat, the Beak and the Duke. So let me get rid of this, Duker. We're going to give it 4 cans of hominy. Drained white hominy. Okay, just dump her in there. A little Red River Ranch mesquite seasoning, about a tablespoon full. That's why we didn't salt it too much at the first. Well, really, we didn't salt it any, did we? We're going to let it cook about 30 more minutes, just simmering to get all them flavors mixed around there with that hominy, because that pork is tender. Now, if you like this broth to be a little thicker when it gets done, you can thicken it with a little cornstarch and water, or just a little masa, whichever you like. I prefer it just like it is. I forgot to mention this to y'all a while ago, but be sure you get the rest of them bay leaves out of there because they don't eat well. So let me go ahead and dip me some more of this out of there. Get me some of that wonderful broth that goes in there with it. But you can see all the good color and flavor that is just jumping out of this thing. Y'all know who ought to get the first bites, don't you? Well, here's one of them. He is ready. I need to know how many tail wags we're going to get for this. How many tail wags? Come on now, let's speed it up because I know that was some fine dining. My two food critics have agreed that things is good. So right here, I'm just going to reach down in there. First, I want to just taste this broth without nothing to it because it is some fine dining. Folks, the flavors you get by taking the time to get them dried chilies and boil them down there to where you get all that flavor and put them in the blender and let it mix, and then cooking them extra hours is what does it. This is on a cold winter day. You're sitting out there watching the snow fly. Got you a big old pot of this going on the wood stove. Don't get no better than that, folks. So now let me have a little of this tender pork butt and some of that hominy. Woo, dookie! Can I get a high five from either of my puppies? No? I'm going to tell you right now, that is some tail wagging approved cowboy hat wearing, sure enough goodness all the way down to the last drop. So you can serve this, like I say, with some thinly sliced cabbage laying in there, some radishes, get you a flour tortilla. I mean, things don't get no better than that. What? Oh, okay. They have to check this, folks, just to make sure that it's okay. Well, we want to thank y'all for stopping by the barn. Hope you learned something today. Hope you enjoyed. This is a little deal that takes a little time to put together, but as y'all know, if it has got the effort in it and it comes from the heart, it is truly worth eating. I promise you that. So as always, I tip my hat to all our servicemen and women and our veterans who have kept that old flag flying over to keep it safe wherever we're at. God bless y'all. Also, guess what? Christmas time's a-coming, it is, and I want you to check out all our good gift ideas that we got on the website because there is new product there that y'all might not have seen, so you better hurry and check it out. Some of it might be there for a limited time only. And oh, don't forget, pre-order that new cookbook. It is out there too. Be sure you hit like, share, and subscribe so we can spread the holly jolly good news all throughout the year. God bless you each and every one, and I'll see you down the authentic Pozole Trail.